My father, actually, did magic stuff. And what he would do, he did goofy things, like he would pull quarters out of our ears and things like that, just the silly stuff. And now, we all know that Jesus turned water into wine. Personally, I prefer chocolate. But my dad would take a wine bottle and he would stick it in a bag and he would go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Whoops, I guess I better take that little lid off so it'll work. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And, it's gone. I'm a little girl. I'm going, wow. And my brother's going, you're such an idiot. It's in the bag. So the next time my dad took the wine bottle and he stuck it in the bag and he did his little eeny, meeny, miny, mo, it's gone. And I said, no, Dad, it's in the bag. He said, oh, you mean this bag? I said, yeah, it's in the bag. He said, okay, forget the whole thing then. Give me that. I also have for you, we have talked a lot today about being broken, right? And it's true that, our hearts are broken many times. And I don't know about you, but sometimes your hearts are broken at church. My heart's been broken at church. My heart's been broken by people. My heart's been broken every way you can possibly imagine. And yesterday we talked about being broken. We talked about that Jesus, in his way, if you give that hurt to him, you can actually, he will make it like it's brand new. Start it all over. As you can, I usually do illusions for kids, but I found out adults love them too, so we're young at heart, right? Daniel has offered to be my victim. Daniel, volunteer? Daniel, did he leave? Did he run away? Here he comes. Give him a hand. Thank you so much. Come on up. This is the wonderful man with the video, and we was playing with that thing today that was up in the skies.
That wasn't me.
That was you.
That was a trick.
Oh, okay. I'm going to make you disappear. You better be careful. I want you. It's been said I have ESP. I call it extra shopping perception. But we're going to go with ESP. I want you to think of a number between 0 and 1,000, and I am going to write your response.
Well, I am a math nerd, so what kind of number? You want natural, irrational, rational, imaginary?
Anything you choose, I am writing.
Okay.
I'm going to write your response, okay? Go for it. Okay? Have you got your number?
Got my number.
Is it a natural? Is it a unnatural? What is it?
I want
Is it
natural for you.
Oh, thank you, because I am just really, really hard here. Now, is your number 458? No? I got it right? I told you it didn't matter what you said. Oh, you're going to need this, by the way. Okay. Does somebody out here have a dollar bill I can have? I usually ask for like 100, but I don't get. Someone must have a dollar. Just one. One? Can you? Oh, here we go. Let me go. Don't go away. Can't get away from me. Now, before I do anything with it, what I would like you to do, before I do anything, I want you to write down the serial number, because as you know, every dollar bill is exactly different. I mean, they're not the same. I was going to say exactly the same. No. They're all different. They're exactly like us. You see why I needed prayer before I got started? Okay, write down that serial number, because I want you to hand that to someone, because I don't want them to think I'm doing hanky-panky. Hand it to one of the ladies up front. Now, I'm going to make the dollar bill disappear, which my husband says is my spiritual gift. I can't help it. I love to shop. Anybody like the dollar store? Love the dollar store. Where else can you get chili con carne made by Alpo? Come over here. I would like you to point to two. I'll take this from you. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is. I kind of had that set up all wrong. So sorry. Okay, what I want you to do here, let's move this so you can do this. Okay. Without me killing anything else.
So what am I going to do?
You want you to point to two of those oranges, and
This one and that one.
this one and that one. Okay, we'll take those away. And if I could find a knife, that would be really handy. Here it is. Okay, now come over here, and I want you to put your 2 fingers on those oranges. Pick 1 finger up. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Now, we all know the story where the prophet Samuel goes to the house of Jesse to appoint the next king over the Jewish nation, right? And all the sons start going in front of him, and God thinks, Eliab looks pretty good, and God says, no, I've rejected him. And as he's doing the sons are walking by, God says to Samuel, he says, we all look pretty darn good on the outside, but it's what's inside that counts. California oranges, what can I say? I want you to open that up, and I would like you to read that serial number to her. You got it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. See, it didn't hurt too bad, did it? Yeah. When I go places, I always say, I wish I knew that trick when my mother used to say, money doesn't grow on trees. Bummer. I have for you a couple more of the dumb things. PowerPoint, 1, if you want to turn the light so they can see it. I couldn't resist it. I have to ask you guys, how many of you go to get your hair done and you're unhappy with your hairdresser? I have gone to the same man for so many years, and every time he comes, I have to literally sit there and go, don't cut this. And I come home and it's up to here. And my husband, and I had a friend, every time she got her hair done, she was grumbling and griping about it. And I said, why do you go back to her? And she said, well, I couldn't go anywhere else. It is absolutely true that women will cheat on their husband before they will cheat on their hairdresser. Do you know there is a website called How to Break Up with Your Hairdresser? I swear, look it up, if you can believe that. Unbelievable. And anybody here, well, my age, remember the Jetsons, the cartoon The Jetsons, and how they had the phones that you looked at the camera, you're looking at. Thanks a lot, because we now have that. I serve on the board of the Christian Comedy Association, which we have board meetings via video. So now, in order to answer the phone, I have to get dressed. I have to comb my hair. I have to look for good light. Thanks. Really appreciate that one. And how many will admit to using the telephone in the bathroom? I call that phone on the throne. Gives new meaning to the term royal flush. But you're in a stall minding your own business and you hear, hello. What you doing? Can I come over? And I grew up on the rotary phone. I love the portable phones, the phones ringing. Now, we still have a landline because we live in Arnold and we don't have real good cell service. But I love the portable phone. It's ringing. I can't find it. I am running all over the house. I cannot find that doggone thing. I finally run upstairs to where I actually still have a phone attached to the wall. I'm out of breath. I grab the phone. It was an obscene caller. He's breathing heavy. Heck, I'm breathing heavy. He finally said, did you call me or did I call you? And I love it now. You get to go on email, right? And you read, these horrible, I use Yahoo, and you just see these horrible headlines all the time, the world falling apart. However, the Hollywood stars wore this on the red carpet. They paid $100,000 for a dress, and there's 3 other people in the same dress. They need to shop at Walmart. They go, that's one of a kind. Yes, it is. I also found out, the news is very interesting. Do you know that you can be cremated now? And when you are, you're not putting it, you're putting an urn, but it looks like a book. So you could be bookends on your mantle. You could put names on it like Gone with the Wind. From here to eternity. My husband is putting mine. He's putting One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's okay. It's okay. And now, you know, when you order from Amazon, you can hit a button because you want to share what you just bought on Facebook. Yeah, I just bought Depends. Let me share that with the world. And you know what's really funny is that diapers for babies are called cute little things like Huggies and Loves, because no matter how stinky they are, you're going to hug them and love them, right? For adults, it's called Depends, because it totally depends on who's in the will as to who's going to take care of you. And I have for you a Salute to Motherhood video. Can't make that stuff up, that's for sure. And there's also, this is Valentine's candy for mothers. My husband and I were in Hawaii not long ago. Last year we were in Hawaii, and I am totally amazed the number of pregnant women, big pregnant women, wearing bikinis. I guess that's the new thing. I am trying to suck it in, and they've got it hanging out. So I figured I was going to take advantage of that, so I made this for myself. Perfect, huh? Oh, my. I was making that, and my husband goes, "What are you doing with that?" And I told him briefly, and he just had this nothing look on his face. Nothing box. I said, "You're not a woman. You're not going to get it." So thank you. You gave me the oomph I needed there. Wow. And kids certainly make our lives interesting. They are really funny. Let's show that little picture. Isn't that cute? I love that. I love that. I think that's so precious. Bill and I have 6 kids, and I cannot believe what people do and say to pregnant women. People you don't know walk up to you, touch your stomach, and say the most uplifting things like, "Whoa, you're huge." I had a guy behind me go, "I can tell you're pregnant from behind, you waddle." I had a guy yell across the park, "Hey, you're pregnant." Surprise? What? What do you say to that? Thanks? But a guy came up to me in a grocery store. He was all excited. He rubbed my stomach and he goes, "What are you do?" And I said, "He's 4 months old." Absolute truth. Yeah. We have 4 boys, 2 girls. And you know, there is a huge difference in boys and girls, even at a very young age. I always got worried about the girls when they got quiet. I'm going, "Girls, what are you doing?" And they're going, "Nothing, Mom." And they're up there shaving each other's eyebrows. The boys are screaming and yelling and bouncing and jumping. And I said, "Guys, what are you doing?" And they said, "Jared's baptizing the cat in the toilet." I said, "Jared, cats hate water." He said, "Well, she should have thought of that before she joined my church." Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. You can't make this stuff up, I'm telling you. I have this weird, well, yeah, I have a very weird brain, but I always wondered if Mary, what it would be like to be Mary, the mother of Jesus. I wonder if she ever said, Jesus, get off that lake and quit teasing your brothers. You know they can't walk on water. Or maybe she said, Jesus, close the door. You weren't born in a barn. Oh, maybe so. I have a picture, though, of probably Mary. And I have one. I love that. And I have one from the mother of Moses. Oh my. And we know Adam and Eve, but I'd like for you to see Adam and Eve's baby pictures. Rib and dirt, yeah. You know. You want to come up here? My husband has his own version of the creation story. It goes, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and he rested. God created man, and he rested. God created woman, and ever since that time, neither God nor man has rested. And we all think Adam and Eve had a perfect relationship. Not so, you know. Adam came home late a few nights. Eve started accusing him of seeing someone else, and he's going, who, you know? During the night, Adam woke up. Eve's poking him in the chest. He said, what are you doing? She said, I'm counting your ribs. And my little son came home from Sunday school. He was so excited to tell me he learned that God made Adam, took a rib from Adam and made Eve. And 2 weeks later, he's sick in bed. And I said, honey, what's the matter? He said, oh, no, my side hurts. I think I'm going to have a wife. I am so glad I have you awake. We've already talked about, we've talked about a lot. We've talked about the hurt in our life, the reason, the need for being broken, right? And we've talked about who our God is and what an incredible shepherd he is and that he loves us so much. And tonight, I wanted to address you, us, as people. Because sometimes we actually wonder, can God really use me? Who am I? That I think I said that today. Every time God allows me to do this, I go, God, I'm nobody. I am just like everybody else. I'm nobody special. And I used to be the shyest person that ever walked. You would have never seen me on a stage in front of people. I would have died first. And, you know, God is amazing, but I want you to know how much he loves you and how amazing you are to him. I don't know about you, but I grew up a lot of my life feeling totally inferior. I felt like I was worthless. I didn't exactly have a lot of family support. It's funny because it was only my brother and I, and my mother always focused on my brother. Maybe because he's the one usually in trouble. I was not. But it was always him, and I was always I was the good kid, so I was ignored pretty much most of the time. But I didn't have a very good self-esteem, and when I became a Christian, it's like, I didn't think God could ever use me. Who am I? But there's two stories that I absolutely want to put together here. Matthew 10:29. And they're the same, but yet they're different. Oh, get in the right place. If you're looking at it, Matthew 10:29. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs on your head are all numbered. My husband hates that because he doesn't have very much. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. And if you look at Luke 12:6, it says, are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. And if you look at this, this is literally your first word problem. I don't know about you, but I hated word problems in school. I hated them. You know, if the train leaves San Francisco going 60 miles an hour towards Chicago, and this one leaves Chicago at 10 o'clock going 120 miles, where are they going to meet? I don't know. Turn on the news and you'll find out, right? And I also take it, you know, if a cup of ice cream has 200 calories, certainly melted ice cream has 0. But first grade math will tell you, if you can buy 2 sparrows for 1 penny, you certainly, how many can you buy for 2 pennies? 4, right, 4. But in this case, it's 5. Because in the second one, in Luke, it said, are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? So basically what you have here is a blue light special. Kmart, blue light special. And let me explain to you about sparrows. Back then, you know how you go to a football game or you're at some sporting event and you buy a slice of pizza, you buy a hot dog? Well, back then, they would skewer the little sparrows and they would cook them over a fire. They were the bottom of the food chain. And I think what's really interesting is God does not he wants us to be bird watchers, but he's not looking at the magnificent eagle or a peacock. He's looking at a sparrow, the tiny little sparrow, the tiniest, lowest bird on the food chain. And that's what they used to do. They would sell them. And so in the shopkeeper's eyes, that sparrow, that 5th sparrow, was worthless, right? The 4 were worth something, I'm throwing the last one in free, is what it was saying. Have you ever felt like that odd man out? Have you ever felt like you're forgotten? Have you ever felt like you didn't belong? Have you ever felt like the 5th sparrow? I know I have. Maybe you feel like nobody cares about you. God doesn't care. Maybe you think you've done too bad. You have to clean yourself up to come to God. Well, we know that's not true because you can't clean yourself up to come to God. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. If you look at the life of David is the perfect example, and I just did the orange trick because the prophet Samuel was going to the house of the house of Jesse, to appoint the next king over the new Jewish nation. To have the prophet come to your house was a huge deal, huge. They did not even invite David. David wasn't there. David was out tending sheep. They never thought to send someone out and say, hey, come on to dinner. David was the 5th sparrow. Isn't that amazing that they didn't, and to prove it even farther, when David went out to where they were fighting Goliath and he was bringing them food, and his older brother says, well, what, did you just come here to gawk at us? And David says, what did I do? I haven't done anything. He was the 5th sparrow. He was just the shepherd. He didn't count. Interesting, he was a shepherd, isn't it? His life didn't count. But you know what? God is in the business of taking from the back of the line. That is what's so awesome. He doesn't pick the greatest. He picks from the back of the line. And you know why? Because then people can relate to them. If it was a king that did all this magnificent stuff, you go, well, he was raised like that. He's had a silver spoon in his mouth. He's okay. But God chooses from the back of the line. He wants to take the nobody, or at least what people consider to be a nobody, not that you are a nobody. He wants to take you and make you something amazing. You're not the 5th sparrow. You're absolutely not. He knows every time a little sparrow, he goes to every sparrow funeral, it says right there. He knows when one falls to the ground. So why wouldn't he care that much more about you? Wow. And I know what it means to say, and I have said this, I've done terrible things. God wouldn't want me. God wouldn't want me. And even because I didn't become a Christian until I was in my 20s. And I was not there's not a commandment I have not broken. There's not one. And then people tried to tell me, but you know what? The 10 Commandments don't count anymore. You have to go with the New Testament. And in my learning, what I have found out is God never does away with the moral laws, okay? Yes, he does away with the 600 Jewish laws they had made up to, don't eat this and do this and whatever. He did away with that. But he didn't do away with moral laws. And so it is very eye-opening when you realize that no matter what you've done, he loves you anyway. If you were the only person in all of creation, he still would have gone to that cross for you. What an incredible thought. But if you look at David, I love the stories of David. Here David is finally made it king. Now he ran from Saul for 10 whole years. He ran from Saul for his life. And finally, he would not kill Saul. He had opportunity. He didn't. He said, I will not touch God's anointed. When Saul finally died and he became king, what does he do? He's up on the roof because it's very hot. Now, mind you, he should have been in battle. This was a season the kings go to battle with their people. He stayed home. Number one, he was where he shouldn't have been. Number two, he's up there because it's hot, and he's looking, and he looks over, and he sees his neighbor's wife. Now, this isn't just his neighbor. This is in his army. This is one of the leaders. This is a friend. And he's looking over at Bathsheba, who's bathing on the roof. And he sends people to go get her and bring her over. And you know the rest of the story. The rest of the story, of course, is that he sleeps with her, and she gets pregnant. And then he brings her husband Uriah home to try to have him sleep with his own wife. And he's so honorable, he said, I can't do that because my men are out at battle. I can't do that. So David basically has him killed, is what he does. Wow. That's the stuff that soap operas are made of. If you think that the people in the Bible are perfect, think again. But you know why God put them in there? He put them in there imperfect so we could relate to them. He put them in there imperfect so we would know that, wow, he did great things with them. He can do great things for me. And of course, David, the baby died. He repented. And he's known as a man after God's heart. Wow. David was the fifth sparrow. Do you feel like that? I encourage you, don't, because God loves you too much. You're not the fifth sparrow. Remember the song? I love the song. And it says, you know, when everybody saw a shepherd boy, God saw a king. Every one of you in God's eyes are his daughters. Imagine what he can do through you. Sometimes we just put up a good front, and we're smiling and we're crying on the inside. But that's what we've talked, you know. If you're broken, give it to God. He has amazing things for you. Like Aaron said, you don't have to go to a foreign country to be sent. Our world is in a mess. And we need every one of you to be able to share about Jesus. And I know for some people it's very threatening and it's very scary. And how do I do that? Because people might reject me. And what I have found over the years is that I just share what I have seen God do in my life with someone. And I worked at a delicatessen, and it was a ministry to me. All these were, you know, early 20s, young kids. None of them knew the Lord. And I would do anything for them, and they couldn't understand it to start with. The worst job in the deli is skewering chickens. Hi. The worst job. I mean, you skewer these chickens so they can put them on the rotisserie, but it is nasty. And a lot of the girls really hated it. And so we had a list, and so you knew for the day what your job was. And I would go and skewer the chickens for them. And she'd go, do you like that? I'd go, no. And she said, well, why would you do that for me? I said, well, I know you hate it more than I do. You know, so I'll do it. And after 3 years, I found out that they would watch my name to see, because I only worked part-time. They would watch my name to see when I would come in. That's what the supervisor told me. And the supervisor was not Christian, and she was a little hard to deal with, but they would want me in there because I could always get her in a good mood. And I finally had some of the girls say, what's different about you? What is different about you? And I told them, it was Jesus. That's what it is. That is how you minister in your everyday life. That is exactly how. It is not hard. You don't have to know this Bible inside and out. All you have to know is how can you tell someone what God has done in your life? Because they may not believe, well, they don't believe the Bible, or they've never even thought about it. But the truth is, they can say, well, why would I believe this? That's nothing to me. But they can't say what God has done in your life is not true. They can't. It's a great place to start. Show that love, show that kindness, and you will have a chance to open up. And just wait, pray for it. Say, God, I want a chance to tell these people about you. I want to read a story to you, and please, it is a longer one, but it is so awesome, and I'm not sure I can get through it without crying. It's called The Hairbrush Experience by Beth Moore. Those of you who know Beth Moore, she's an incredible Bible teacher. I want to grow up to be like her. On April 20th, 2005, in the Knoxville airport, waiting to board the plane, I had the Bible on my lap and was very intent upon what I was doing. I had a marvelous morning with the Lord. I say this because I want to tell you it is a scary thing to have the Spirit of God really working in you. You could end up doing some things that you would never have done otherwise. Life in the Spirit can be dangerous for 1,000 reasons, not the least of which is your ego. I tried to keep from staring, but he was such a strange sight. Humped over in a wheelchair, his skin and bones, dressed in clothes that obviously fit him when he was at least 20 pounds heavier. His knees protruded from his trousers, and his shoulders looked like the coat hangers with the shirt still on it. His hands looked like tangled masses of veins and bones. The strangest part of him was his hair and nails. Stringy, gray, hung well over his shoulders and down his back. His fingernails were long, clean, but strangely out of place on this old man. I looked down at my Bible as fast as I could, discomfort burning in my face. I tried to imagine his story, what it might have been. I was wondering, could he be a Howard Hughes sighting? But Howard Hughes is dead. Was there a camera somewhere? There I sat, trying to concentrate on the Word to keep from being concerned about the thin slice of humanity served up in a wheelchair only a few seats from me. All the while, my heart growing more and more overwhelmed with a feeling for him. Let's admit it, curiosity is a heap more comfortable than true concern, and suddenly I was awash with aching emotion for this bizarre-looking old man. I had walked with God long enough to see the handwriting on the wall. I've learned that when I begin to feel what God feels, something so contrary to my natural feelings, something dramatic is bound to happen, and it may be embarrassing. I immediately began to resist because I could feel God working on my spirit, and I started arguing with God in my mind. And I said, "Oh no, God, please." And I looked up at the ceiling as if I could look straight through and see him. "Don't make me witness to this man. Not right here, right now. Please, I'll do anything. Put me on the same plane. But don't make me get up and witness to this man in front of this gawking audience. Please, Lord." I sat there in the blue vinyl chair begging His Highness, "Please don't make me witness to this man." "Not now. I'll do it on the plane." Then I heard it. "I don't want you to witness to him. I want you to brush his hair." The words were so clear, my heart leapt to my throat, and my thoughts spun like a top. Do I witness to the man or brush his hair? No brainer. I looked straight back at the ceiling and said, "God, as I live and breathe, I want you to know I am ready to witness to this man." "I'm on this, Lord. I'm your girl. You have never seen a woman witness to a man faster in your life. What difference does it make if his hair is a mess if he's not redeemed? I'm going to witness to this man." And again, I clearly heard the audible word. God seemed to write this statement across the wall of my mind. "That is not what I said, Beth. I don't want you to witness to this man. I want you to brush his hair." I looked up at God and I quipped, "I don't have a hairbrush. It's in the suitcase on the plane. How am I supposed to brush his hair if I don't have a hairbrush?" God was so insistent that I almost involuntarily got up and walked towards the man, and these thoughts came to me from God's word. "I will thoroughly furnish you unto all good works." Thanks a lot. I stumbled over to the wheelchair, thinking that I could use one myself. Even as I retell the story, my pulse quickens and I feel the same butterflies. I knelt down in front of the man and asked him as demurely as possible, "Sir, may I have the pleasure of brushing your hair?" He looked back at me and said, "What'd you say?" "May I have the pleasure of brushing your hair?" To which he responded, "Little lady, if you expect me to hear you, you gotta talk a lot louder than that." At that point, I took a deep breath and I blurted out, "Sir, may I have the pleasure of brushing your hair?" At which point, every eye in the place turned on me. I was the only thing in the room looking more peculiar than Mr. Longlocks. My face was crimson, my forehead breaking out in a sweat. I watched him look up at me with absolute shock on his face and say, "Well, if you really want to." Are you kidding? Of course I didn't want to. But God didn't seem interested in my personal preference right about then. He pressed on my heart until I could utter the words, "Sir, I would be pleased, but I don't have a hairbrush." And the man responded, "I have one in my bag." I went around the back of the wheelchair, and I got on my hands and knees and unzipped the stranger's carry-on, hardly believing what I was doing. I stood up and started brushing the old man's hair. It was perfectly clean, but was tangled and matted. I don't do many things well, but must admit I'd had a lot of experience untangling knotted hair, mothering 2 little girls. Like I'd done with either Amanda or Melissa, in such condition, I began brushing very carefully from the bottom of the strands, remembering to take my time not to pull. A miraculous thing happened as I started brushing this man's hair. Everybody else in the room disappeared. There was no one alive for those few minutes except this man and me. I brushed and brushed and brushed until every tangle was out of his hair. I know it sounds strange, but I've never felt that kind of love for another person, another soul in my entire life. I believe with all my heart for those few minutes, I felt a portion of God's very love. That had overtaken my heart for a little while someone was renting a room and making himself at home. God's love, wow. The emotions were so strong and so pure that I knew they had to be God's. His hair was finally soft and smooth as an infant's. I slipped the brush back in his bag and went around the chair to face him. I got on my hands and knees and I said, "Sir, do you know my Jesus?" He said, "Well, yes, I do." I figured, well, that's figures, I thought. He explained he'd known him ever since he married his bride because she would not marry him until he knew her Savior. He said, "You see, the problem is I have not seen my bride in months. I've had open heart surgery, and she's been too ill to come see me. I was sitting here thinking to myself, what a mess I must be for my bride." This is where I try not to cry. Only God knows how often he allows us to be part of a divine moment when we're completely unaware of its significance. This, on the other hand, was one of those rare encounters when I knew God had intervened in the details only he could have known. It was a God moment I will never forget. Our time came to board, and we were not on the same plane. I was deeply ashamed of how I acted earlier and how I would have been so proud to have accompanied him on the aircraft. I still had a few minutes as I gathered my things to board, and an airline hostess returned from the corridor, tears streaming down her cheeks. And she said, "That old man is sitting on the plane sobbing. What made you do that?" To which I said, "Do you know my Jesus? He can be the bossiest thing." And we got to share. I've learned something about God that day. He knows if you're exhausted, you're hungry, you're serving in the wrong place, or it's time to move on, but you feel too responsible to budge. He knows if you're hurting or feeling rejected. He knows if you're sick or drowning or under the wave of temptation, or he knows if you just need your hair brushed. He sees you as an individual. Tell him your need. I got on my own flight, sobs choking in my throat, wondering how many opportunities just like this I have missed along the way, all because I didn't want people to think I was strange. God did not send me to that old man. He sent that old man to me. Wow. Excuse me. It does it to me every time. You may think you don't have much to offer. But you've got to realize you are created in God's image. You have a lot to offer. You may feel that your life is meaningless or worthless, or you just aren't good enough, or you're not as good as the person sitting next to you. God doesn't care. All God wants is your heart and your willingness. As Aaron said, you just have to be willing. You've just got to say, "What do you want of me, God?" And then hold on for the ride, which is the absolute truth, because he will give you the ride of your life. God is the God of impossibility. If it's something you can do on your own, it is not God. If it's something that keeps you on your knees, then you know it's God. Believe me, I would never be up here because I'm on my knees every time before, because this is not me. I am telling you, God has something amazing for you, absolutely amazing. You've just got to be brave enough to say, I'm ready, Lord. You tell me what to do. And it might be witnessing to your neighbor. It might be witnessing to somebody at work. It might be Africa. Who knows? But God has something for you. You know, Babe Ruth, all-time hitter, 714 home runs. He struck out 1,330 times. Terry Bradshaw, the famous quarterback, had 4 Super Bowl wins. 99.9% of the time they didn't catch it. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections, failed in 2 businesses, and had a nervous breakdown. You've got to press on with God. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. And the place to start is, if you have not given your life to Jesus, do that now. Just tell him that you need him in your life. I mean, if our lives are a mess, how are we doing without him? The truth is, we need him, because you need that safety net. You need that support. And then just say, God, whatever you want of me. We are in such, I turn on the news and I cry because this world is so upside down. But if every one of us go out and witness to just a few who will witness to a few, we can set this world on its ear. We can turn it upside down. But it starts with you. Every one of you here are so special. You are not the 5th sparrow. God is choosing you, and he brought you here to tell you so. Let me pray for you. God, thank you for this time. Thank you for this message. Thank you that you are the God of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th chances. You continually love us no matter what. We are so dead in our sin, but God, you love us anyway. You love us so much that you say you throw our sin as far as the east is from the west, meaning that you choose to forget it. Not that you have a bad memory, but you choose to forget it. Thank you. I pray for each and every woman here. I pray that when they go home, they will be brave enough to say, Lord, who do you want me to witness to? Lord, and then just keep them praying and just open doors for them to tell people about you. We love you, Lord. We have been appointed to be your hands, your feet, and your mouth. I don't know why, because we certainly are a mess. But we're the mess without you. With you, nothing is impossible. Thank you for this time. God bless these ladies. In your precious name, Lord. Amen.